Okay, people, it's a 2004 Beetle convertible with the 6-speed automatic 09G. We're going to be pulling it out. Remember one of my previous videos, release the top when you're working with convertibles. Make sure the doors are not latched, both sides. That way the vehicle can flex. We got to cover up these fenders. All this paint. I'm going to take all this stuff off the top of the engine. Okay, with the engine cover off, next we're going to get the pinch clamps to get the snorkel. We're going to get the air box out of here. We're going to get the battery and the battery tray out of here. The tubing going to the emissions control parts. And we're going to have access to the transmission at that point. Now, if you don't know how to get an air box out or can't figure it out, snorkel and the battery stuff, which may be in one of my other videos, but man, if you don't know how to get that stuff out, stop right here. Do not touch the transmission. Do not attempt to take the transmission out if you have trouble with simple tasks like that. As you can see, there's a lot of extra room once you've removed the air cleaner and the battery. I haven't even removed the tray yet because I can reach these bolts here on the mount without it. And if it starts getting in my way, I will take it out. A word of caution here on these things: before you disconnect a battery on any of these Volkswagens, make sure that you know whether it has a factory stereo in it or not. And if it does, it will probably set the alarm and you will have to have the code for the stereo in order to get it running again. So if you're not sure, then set up some kind of alternate power source where you connect some wires or jumper wires or something, or one of the store-bought tools that you can stick in the cigarette lighter that has a 9-volt battery in it to keep the power alive while you're working on it. That way you don't have to deal with the stereo. Okay, once you got the engine brace on there holding the engine, you can make one of these out of 2x4s, but do not lay them flat. They will break. You have to lay them standing up like this. It's the only way they're strong enough. But you cannot make one of these hooks. You have to buy some hooks. Now that we're braced, we can start taking things off of the transmission. I prefer removing the linkage from here and leaving the arm on the cable, because this part right here is your adjustment, and if you mess with that, then you have to readjust the cable when you put it back. If you take it loose this way, 2 10mm bolts and the 1 10mm nut, then you have less work to do. When you put the transmission back in, you don't have to readjust. Now this cooler that you got to be really careful with. I prefer to take an Allen wrench and take this bolt loose and pull it loose that way, rather than messing with these hoses, taking a chance on damaging something and getting antifreeze all over everything and having to... Okay, this is what the top of the transmission looks like when it's done and you're ready to lift up. Get 4 of these 16mm head bolts for that piece of mount there, which, see, it's right here. And then the 2 19mm bolts go through this part of the mount. Gives you a nice big gap here. There's the connector for the neutral safety switch, brindle switch. I like to take an Allen wrench and take this bolt loose on the cooler so that it comes loose from the transmission there, and I don't have to mess with the hoses, take any chance on damaging the hoses or the nipples where the hoses go. And I don't lose any coolant out of the coolant system, and I don't have to worry about getting air out of the coolant system during reassembly. There's one of the two top bolts that you got to take out has that ground wire right there, and it has a nut that holds it to the top of the bolt. So make sure you put that back in when you're putting the transmission back in. You can't even see where the other bolt goes. You have to feel for it. There it is. You can see. Right there's where it went. Alright. We're ready to lift it up and get the wheels off. So you got the wheels off. You're going to take the nut off right here. You're going to take all 3 bolts out right here so that you can get this ball joint loose. You're going to push the caliper toward the outside of the car, releasing the tip of the drive shaft. You can take a pry bar. You're going to get in between this part of the drive shaft and the transmission. You're going to pop that loose. You can pull that drive shaft out this far. You're going to leave it hanging there. No sense in taking up table space. It's just going to go right back in there when the transmission goes back in. Alright, you're going to take these bolts loose and you're going to pull this shield off because it's going to be in your way of reaching here to this access hole to get the torque converter nuts out. Which, while you're taking torque converter nuts out, you're going to come over here to the front of the vehicle and you're going to have access hole here. You take a screwdriver and grab those teeth of the flywheel. See if you can see that. And the teeth of the flywheel. See the teeth? With the screwdriver, and you're going to turn those where you can get access right here when you take this bolt out, this bell-housing bolt out. Get access here and turn the flywheel. And they're actually torque converter nuts. You see up in there. See that torque converter nut? You're going to line it up with that hole and then take it loose. After you take the shield out, of course. Do the same thing with this other drive shaft on the other side and the other ball joint. And I'll show you some more in a minute. So you've got the nuts off. You've got the bolts off here for the ball joints. Pushed on this to get the axle loose. You took the pry bar and you popped that out. Slide the axle over here. You did that on the other side as well. Now you've gotten access here. You've been pushing on the flywheel, turning it around, took this shield off, and you took all the torque converter nuts out. There's 4 of them, by the way. Then you got to come over here. You've got connectors here that's got to come loose, 2 of them. You've got a shield here, which is right there, has to come off. It's got a 10mm here, another 10mm hidden up in there. That gives you access to all this into the transmission. This is the driver's side. But then you've got to take this nut loose and this other nut loose just to get loose from this power steering pipe. You've got a starter here, which I took the wire loose from. And now we got to get the starter bolts out. Okay, so there's not 4 torque converter nuts. There's actually 6. You can see I've probably taken the last of the bell-housing bolts loose. Got the jack, got the strap on, and I'm pulling it loose from the engine now. We'll be out of here in no time. So here it is. It's out of there. There's the big hole. The bottom of the cooler. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Put your questions down below. Until next week, get off the couch and get dirty.
Subscribe and share our videos. Remember, sharing is caring.